Some monsters are born. Others are forged by the brutal worlds that demand their creation. Vlad III was never meant to become legend. He was meant to rule a small, vulnerable principality on the edge of Europe, and then fade into history. But history does not remember the gentle. It remembers the unforgettable. And Vlad understood something few rulers ever grasp. If you cannot be loved, be feared. Because fear lingers long after admiration fades. By the time his enemies learned his name, it was already too late. They would not remember his diplomacy, only the forests of bodies he left behind. And the warning they carried. Enter my land. And this will be your fate. Vlad was born in 1431 in Transylvania, a fractured land where empires collided. To the south stood the Ottoman Empire, expanding with terrifying speed. Cities fell. Kingdoms vanished. Armies marched westward. Between them and Christian Europe sat Wallachia, Vlad's homeland, a small state forced to survive through compromise. Vlad's father belonged to a secretive chivalric order known as the Order of the Dragon, sworn to resist Ottoman expansion. From this came the family name, Dracula, the dragon. And Vlad? Dracula, son of the dragon. But titles offered little protection in a land ruled by betrayal. When Vlad was still a boy, his father made an unthinkable decision. To secure peace with the Ottomans, he handed over his sons as hostages. Not guests. Not diplomats. Collateral. Vlad was around 11 years old. And childhood ended the moment he crossed into enemy territory. The Ottoman court was disciplined, powerful, and unforgiving. There, Vlad learned languages, warfare, and strategy. He watched an empire that functioned like a machine. But beneath the education, resentment grew. Because captivity, no matter how comfortable, is still captivity. Then devastating news arrived. His father was assassinated. His older brother executed by rival nobles. Betrayal had destroyed his family. Not the Ottomans. His own countrymen. From that moment forward, Vlad saw the world differently. There were only two kinds of people. Those who threatened stability, and those who enforced it. Mercy, he decided, was a risk weak rulers could not afford. When Vlad returned to Wallachia, he did not find a kingdom. He found chaos. Nobles schemed constantly, overthrowing rulers whenever it suited them. Loyalty was temporary. Vlad reached a chilling conclusion. Wallachia was not dying from foreign enemies. It was rotting from within. So he made an example. At an Easter feast, he invited the nobles responsible for years of instability. They arrived, expecting celebration. Instead, soldiers sealed the exits. The older nobles were executed immediately. The younger were marched into the mountains and forced to build Vlad's fortress, Weaponized castle. Many collapsed from exhaustion. Most never returned. Vlad, this was not cruelty. It was policy. Remove traitors once, and future betrayals become far less likely. Order returned. But it came at a horrifying cost. Execution was common in medieval Europe. Vlad transformed it into psychological warfare. His preferred method was impalement, a sharpened stake driven through the body and raised toward the sky. Slow. Public. Unforgettable. Roads into Wallachia became corridors of the dead. Travelers smelled them before they saw them. Fields filled with bodies. Crows circling overhead. Silence where villages once stood. It worked. Crime reportedly vanished. Vlad understood a timeless principle. Fear is a language everyone understands. For years, Vlad paid tribute to the Ottoman Sultan. Until he decided survival was not enough. He refused further payments. Executed envoys who demanded submission. And nailed their turbans to their heads when they refused to remove them. It was more than defiance. It was a declaration of war. Knowing he could not defeat the Ottoman army in open battle, Vlad turned the land itself into a weapon. He burned crops. Poisoned wells. Evacuated villages. Launched night raids that left soldiers too afraid to sleep. When Sultan Mehmed II marched into Wallachia, he expected resistance. He did not expect what waited outside the capital. Nearly 20,000 impaled bodies. A forest of the dead stretching toward the horizon. Even hardened soldiers recoiled. The invasion continued, but something had shifted. The Ottomans were no longer marching confidently. Now, They were looking over their shoulders. Fear had done what armies alone could not. But terror has consequences. The more feared Vlad became, the more isolated he grew. European leaders praised him publicly, while quietly keeping their distance. Stories spread across the continent, some exaggerated, others disturbingly believable. Truth no longer mattered. The myth had overtaken the man. Eventually, even his allies decided he was too unpredictable. Vlad was captured and imprisoned for over a decade. The prince who terrified empires, reduced to a political inconvenience. Years later, he reclaimed his throne one final time. Older, hardened, still feared. But power built on terror is fragile. In 1476, Vlad rode into battle again, and never returned. Accounts differ, but the ending is certain. He was killed. His head severed. Preserved in honey. And sent to the Ottoman Sultan as proof that the infamous prince was finally gone. Even in death, he remained a warning. Centuries passed. Empires fell. Yet Vlad's name refused to disappear. Then an Irish writer, searching for something dark and ancient, found it. Dracula. Bram Stoker borrowed the name. And the prince became a vampire. Immortal. Inhuman. But the truth is far more unsettling. Vlad needed no supernatural powers. Only strategy, discipline, and a willingness to be feared beyond reason. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Is a fictional monster truly more frightening than a real one? Vlad the Impaler revealed a brutal political truth. Fear is one of the strongest tools a leader can wield. Used carefully, it creates order. Used excessively, it creates isolation. He may have preserved his homeland during one of Europe's most dangerous eras. But he ensured his name would forever be linked to terror. Vlad was not a vampire. Not a demon. Just a ruler shaped by betrayal, war, and a world where hesitation meant annihilation. So he chose the only strategy he believed guaranteed survival. Be so terrifying, that no one would dare test you. And history, as it often does, turn that decision into legend. If you enjoyed this story, like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned. More true stories are coming soon.